All right. Hey guys, I'm here back. Okay, so do I? Is this mic good, or should I just do this? Right? We like the mic. Okay. All right. So let's go. So so we're gonna start. Leah, when she asked me to speak, thank you so much, the amazing Leah. She was asking for a title, and so I was just kind of talking through like ideas about what I had, and she was talking about hearing, and I said, it's about listening to the whispers of the angels. She's like, oh no, that's the title, right? Right, our personal geula, right? Our personal geula, which is our own redemption, right? We have a national redemption, we have the world redemption with the coming of Mashiach, and we have our own personal redemption. And I'm not going to tell you anything that probably you already know everything that I'm going to say, right? Which is important anyway, because you already have all of your answers on how to return to your essence. You already have all of your answers on how to return to your essence. Your personal redemption is not based on becoming someone else. It is not based on becoming like someone else. Your personal redemption comes when you return to your initial, to who you are, and you return and get closer to Hashem who loves you, right? And so where does that start, and how do we know? And again, I'm not going to tell you anything fancy. I'm going to give you a bunch of things that you already know. You're going to say, oh, that's so simple. I've learned that in God. But that's the thing, right? That's the thing. The truth you already have. The answers you already have. Because with nsyonos, right? What are the basics on nsyonos? The basics on all nsyonos that share every time. One, it has to be the hardest thing that I could possibly go through. Right? And so when people hear that I was blind, electric wheelchair, liquid-only nutrition, left in the basement, 10 years not able to walk, 3 years not able to eat, 1 year not able to speak, they say, oh my gosh, you're amazing. You're amazing. Wow. I could never go through that. I don't know how you did that. And here's the thing. You're right. You couldn't go through it. But I couldn't go through some of your hardest nsyonos, right? Because it's not mine. It's not my journey. Because why am I giving in nsyonos? And why is it? Because it's a matana. Because it's a gift. It's a gift that I've been given. And it is with the matana, with the talents and abilities that Hashem has already given me. Right? Because before we get the illness, we get the cure. Right? And so before I was born, I knew all of these trials and tribulations that I was going to go through. And I accepted them. And I said, thank you so much, I'll do it. And he said, and why? Why did I choose my parents? Why did I choose that situation? Why did I choose to have to be from domestic violence because of the Arabs? Why did I have to go into hiding for a year with my children? Why did I have to live in the basement of a nursing home? Because it was my journey, because it is what my neshamah had to go through, not go around. To get closer to Hashem who loves me completely. And that's all that he wants, right? And so that's step one of the nsyonos. It has to be the hardest thing, but it has to be what I need. It has to be the thing that Hashem knows will bring me closer to him. Because it's about birth, which is what we're going to talk about in 1 second. Okay? What else does it have to be? Hashem has to have given me everything I need to get through it. Right? We're given, before we get the illness, we get the cure. So when I was standing up in Shemayim, when you were standing up in Shemayim, before you forgot everything, before the malachim touched you right here, and you forgot that you knew all of Torah, and you forgot that you knew all of your way, at that time, we chose our nsyonos because it was the exact tikkun, the exact fix that my neshama needed to go through so that maybe I don't ever have to come back here again, right? I can just be here when Mashiach is here, right? Right? So I have everything. It's the worst possible thing. I need to go through it, right? And when I go through it, what I know is because it's a custom-made challenge, right? Custom-made to my neshamah. When I go through it, I know 100% of the time that I will be closer to Hakadosh Baruch Hu who loves me completely, right? So So how do I know that this is what he wants? Because this was in the creation. Again, I'm not going to tell you anything fancy. I'm going to tell you things that you already know. So before Hashem started to create this world, right? In order to make a living place for himself, before he did any of that, he was perfect. Like Mama, she was perfect. He filled all space, all time, all things. So how was there space for us? And how can a perfect being grow? And this is what I have to talk to you about today. How does a perfect being grow? By, what did he do? He pulled in. He created space. And in that space that he created space for him to grow towards us, right? For us to create a dwelling place for him. And for us to grow towards him. And he gave us everything we needed to grow, right? It was the hardest possible thing for us, but he gave us everything that we needed, which is the Spirit, right? He sent down his attributes. He sent down, because how do we get closer to him? How do we go through the nsyonos? We act like God. We be God-like, right? But how do we do that when we're totally going to fail? The Ramchal says that our avodah is actually to try to be like a Kadosh Baruch Hu, who is perfect, knowing 100% of the time we will fail. The Jewish people, right? So you already know. So we set up these ideas in our head like, oh, I'm not going to try it. It's going to be too hard. I'm not going to try it because I'm going to fail, right? And I talk about this as your superpower. Your superpower is the thing that you were born with, where your heart sings, where your joys are, where your matana, your talents and everything already are, and where that intersects with what the world needs most from you at this moment in time, right? And for me, after October 7th, I realized that at this moment in time, what the world needed most, that I was uniquely qualified to give, because I couldn't see, because I couldn't talk, because I had been through domestic violence, from PTSD from the Arabs, because I had gone that path. When I got here and made my aliyah, finally a year ago this month, when I got here and came home and came back to my essence and planted myself in the land that the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave me, right? Because it's mine. When this happened, then I became more of who I was always meant to be. More of who I was always meant to be because I came home. I returned to the essence of who I am. And so in this perfection, Rav Kook says that there were two perfections. Because Hashem was perfect before he thought about us, before he thought about creating us. But then there was a second perfection, the perfection of growth. And he sent us the Sefirot, but he also sent us the strength and the koach, the encouragement, and the moshav, right? That you all know that from the title, that every blade of grass has an angel next to it, whispering, grow. Every blade of grass has an angel next to it, whispering, grow. And if Hashem and the Malachim care so much about every blade of that grass, imagine how much he cares about you. And imagine how much he wants you to grow. Because that's actually the world that he created. In his double perfection, he said, I want to grow towards you, and I want you to grow towards me. And I'm going to give you a path to do that, right? I'm going to give you the Spirit. I'm going to show you what it's like to have my attributes. I'm going to give you the solution before I give you the illness, right? Which is a painful life, it seems. It seems really, really painful, right? Like you would say that I've had a lot of pain. You've had a lot of pain, and I don't know your pain, and you don't know my pain. But together, b'yachad, together as Am Yisrael, we get through and we grow. And so when I focus on there's a wrong question that people ask. They're like in a relationship, whether it's like dating or whether it's a long term or whether it's like a friendship, right? And the kind of outward word is always like, well, is it good for me? It's like such a goshiness thing, right? Is it good for me? Are they being good to me? Is this feeding my inner child? Like, is this like a good relationship for me? People ask that of other people, like, is the relationship good for you? Is everything good for you? right? That's so completely the wrong question. It's the whole framing of the question is not a Torah question, right? Because the question to ask, because we learn about relationships just like we learn about everything from Torah. And so if Hashem went into himself to make space for me to grow and create, so then if I want to be godlike, knowing that I'm going to fail, in my relationships, the question is, are you growing? Am I growing? In the space that has been created, the space, in the space that has been created, is there growth? And then it doesn't matter who they are, right? Because everybody, when people hear my whole story, they're like, oh, I'm not angry, right? Like the doctor said I would die. They warehoused me in the basement. I was like alone with bars. My kids were put into foster care. Like, why are you not angry? Because it is this everything you see right now, everything you see, it is just an act for your own growth. Right? So somebody says something nasty and horrible to me, right? Nasty and horrible. They're not saying it, and like old me before Torah, would want to be, right? Like, how could you say that to me? Like, how could you do that? How could you like spit on me? But when I stop for a second and say, what do I have to learn here? Because that person who does the horrible thing, that person who misses the thing that should have happened, the person who doesn't do something as you think correctly or whatever, that person is only there as an actor in this life that Hashem has built for me for only one purpose. And that purpose is to grow closer to Him. And so what happens in the noise, and I love this question about like meditating. I'm a daily meditator. I will tell you right now, I'm a daily meditator. I'm a meditator. I do yoga. I walk. I dance. I listen to music. I am like all in my own journey of recovery, right? It's been 10 years since I took my first, 8 years since I took my first steps again, and I want to take every one of those steps with joy, with purpose, with meaning, with mitzvah, right? And so all of these are a toolbox to do nothing than for me to get out of myself, right? And so the idea of whether it's meditating or chesed or all of these acts of Torah is that it has nothing to do with me, because the act of the growth and the doing has everything to do with me, right? And so the idea is that when I can be quiet, and when I can stop blaming people, and when I can stop hearing the voices, right? We're all created in the image of HaKadosh Baruch Hu who loves us. And so I don't get I don't get to look in the mirror and say, I don't like what I see. Because Hashem made me in His image, because He loves me. And I don't get to look at you when you say something awful and nasty or miss the diagnosis or totally incompetent, because that's hashgacha pratit, right? I say hashgacha pratit is when it appears irrational. It appears irrational, right? I signed a contract and I didn't get paid, right? Or I did all of the steps and I didn't get in, or I did almost nothing and I did. Right? Like it's irrational, right? Like irrational. And those are the moments to stop and listen. Those are the moments to stop and listen. Because in that moment, if you stop and listen, you will hear the angels, right? And they will be saying, grow. And they will be saying that the reason this thing happened that seems like it's totally irrational is because Hashem. And Hashem said, I appreciate your brachas, but actually I'm protecting you from your own brachas, right? Because I actually love you so much that the thing you thought you wanted and needed is actually not what your neshamah wants and needs. And so the goal, whether it's meditation, whether it's saying a Shariat Sar, whether it's taking a moment and walking on the beach and all of those things, the goal is for me to stop. Stop listening to my voices. Stop listening to Because all of that is just, it's like a fake game. It's not the truth. The truth is when I can be totally quiet, and I want you to think about a period of sorrow, right? I tell them every time after, as you do, after we go that everything should grow, that everything should work, because we realize that the flow, the energy, the vibration, like what we heard without hearing when we listened to the sound, we felt the vibrations, that is the frequency of Kadosh Baruch Hu. And Torah is his love language. And when I can stop listening to my own voices and my own thoughts and be still, what I will hear, what I will feel is the vibrations of Kadosh Baruch Hu who loves me. And what I will hear when I get real quiet and I stop listening to the fact that I think I have all my answers, what will I hear? You know it. You know. And so I'm not giving you anything. All I'm doing is giving you the reshus, the encouragement to listen to your own truth and to feel the vibration of Hashem's love.